This Late Night Linux Family podcast is made possible by our patrons. Go to latenightlinux.com/support for details of how you can join them. Support us on Patreon for access to ad-free episodes and early releases. That's latenightlinux.com/support. 2.5 Admins, episode 279. I'm Joe.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Alan.
And here we are again for a very short episode. This year, I'm trying to have Christmas off, and I thought a short episode would be better than no episode. So I've got one very quick question for you. What's the one bit of advice you'd have for someone looking to get to your level of professional experience as a sysadmin?
Find things that you actually want to do that involve system administration, do them, and document them.
And then delete it and do it again, following only your instructions.
That's a good point. Alan is correct. Then delete the thing that you did. Try to do it again with your brain completely turned off, only following your own instructions. And if you can't do that, fix your instructions, then delete it and start over. If that's your process to how you learn to do new things and you keep learning to do new things, you're going to be a sysadmin whether you like it or not.
Getting to where I am was a strange path and not a path that exists anymore. You know, you can't start by sysopping a BBS when you're 12 and then, you know, doing weird things on IRC when you're a teenager and so on. But, you know, it was much the same as Jim, you know, find something you want to set up and figure out how to set it up. If you don't want it, you're not going to have the drive to keep doing it. And so you got to find the part of sysadmin that gets you going and do more of that. And then kind of, as Jim said, branch out and just find the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and how to keep making it better and better and better. And a lot of that is assembling your little toolkit, whether that's, you know, a bunch of scripts or tools or cheat sheets or whatever that help you. It's that book that Jim was talking about of all your notes that let you do all these things. And whether you organize that as a wiki or markdown or notes in a spiral bound book or whatever, is building up that muscle memory and that experience. And a lot of mine came from, I was running a IRC hosting provider and selling services to people, and people were actually trying to break it. And I had to learn how to fix all those things and how to stop the bad guys from doing the bad things. And because I wanted to keep chatting at IRC and keep having the ability to mess with that stuff and have my own server when, you know, that wasn't just a $5 VPS because that didn't exist back then. You know, having your own server in a co-location was expensive. So you had to justify it by selling enough services to other people to keep it going.
As one very simple example of what I was talking about with, you know, find a thing that you actually want to do. Way back in the late 90s and early 2000s when I was, believe it or not, a nubbly little Windows guy in South Carolina, I knew that I really badly wanted to be a FreeBSD guy. I was very impressed with the stories of the power to serve and how CD-ROM.com and Walnut Creek was outperforming these massive commercial websites with just a few little beige boxes because the software was so superior and it was all open source. Anybody could run it. And I knew that was what I desperately wanted to do. But I needed to learn to do it. And I needed to actually use the thing to learn more about it. So what I did is I built a machine and I installed FreeBSD on it and I installed Samba on it and I kept all my files on that. And that forced me to actually use that box because it was my file server. And so, you know, most of the time you're not really touching the FreeBSD part directly, obviously, that you're learning about and knowing, but every once in a while you need to change something in the configs on your file server. So you shell in, you mess around, you do stuff. And in the process, you're learning more about what's going on. You're learning how to actually manage that system. That was a very simple example, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. I had a thing I wanted to do. I wanted to learn FreeBSD, but that's too big. Okay, well, how do I learn FreeBSD? Well, I need to store some files right now, and I'm pretty sure it can do that. So let me learn how to install Samba on FreeBSD and configure it. And I did that, and then
add the next thing, and add the next thing, and add the next thing, and just keep going.
Yep, and before long, your web host is actually paying you instead of making you pay him because you're coming in and fixing his broken servers when he can't figure them out. The last thing I'll mention is I do want to go back over the importance of documenting the things that you've done. That really is not an optional part. It helps you learn. There is a mechanism. It's the same reason that they make you take notes in class. Even if you never read your notes again, the fact that you had to engage that part of your brain in regurgitating the information that you listened to makes it more accessible to you later. The documentation will do that for you, and it will greatly assist your learning. But almost as important as that, maybe even more important, it will teach you to communicate effectively with people about technical issues and other issues. And that's one of the biggest things that causes people either to get the job they wanted or to fail to get the job or keep the job that they wanted in IT, is the ability to actually effectively communicate with other people. So if you go into a job as somebody who has a ream of experience in actually documenting the technical work that you've done on projects, and you can quickly point to that, to an interviewer, and say, you can see here, what my documentation style looks like, and they come across these reams of documentation that you produced, that is strong. That'll get you into some doors that no amount of, well, I wrote this code or I did this thing will.
Yeah, and it's where the phrase like rubber duck debugging comes from. The simple act of explaining this problem out loud usually involves using the parts of your brain to put all the pieces in order to be able to explain it, and it can reveal things to you that you knew but didn't realize you knew. And basically, by describing the problem to your rubber ducky while in the bath, it will tell you the answer you were missing the whole time. It was already in your head. You just didn't realize it until you ordered your thoughts in that particular way. And writing a blog or the Mastodon post or whatever about what you're doing as you're doing some of this stuff, in addition to, like Jim said, writing out the documentation and the steps, can help you with that process, and it will help you avoid mistakes and remember, oh, there was this one other thing I had to do to make this work. And that's where the delete it all and build it again from those instructions will make you realize, hey, I missed this one step. And it makes all the difference between it works and it doesn't work.
However, in my experience, job interviewers respond much more positively to your online trove of documentation than to photos of you playing in the bath with your rubber ducky.
Yes.
Indeed. Right, well, I said this was going to be a short episode, so that's going to do it. We better get out of here. We'll be back next week as normal, but until then, you can find me at joelrest.com/mastodon.
You can find me at mercenarysysadmin.com.
And I'm at Alan Jude.
We'll see you next week.